Dear students, hopefully you are doing well. I am Siddhartha Shankar, an assistant professor of Department of English in Government Horganga College. You are welcome to my today's discussion. In my former class, I have already discussed on the introduction to verb, and I think that would be helpful for you to understand today's class. So let's go to our main discussion. So what are the forms of verb? In English, we have generally five forms of verb. We use five forms of verbs in English, and those are the basic form of verb. The first one is the basic form of verb. If we consider eat as a verb, in that case, eat itself is the basic form. There is no ed with it, there is no s or es with it, there is no ing with it. So eat verb itself is the basic form of a verb. And you have a good idea about that present form of verb, past form of verb, past participle form of verb. That present form of verb, you see the present form of verb eat is eat or eats, and we refer it as verb 1. And you see the past form of verb, and in English we usually consider it as verb 2, and the past participle form of verb or verb 3. And you see the verb 2 is ate, verb 3 is eaten, and the last one is the ing form of verb whenever we add ing with a verb. So today we are going to discuss in which place which form of verb will be used. So I think that you will attentively attend in today's discussion. Let's see here the use of basic form of verb. The first rule is after the modal auxiliaries we should use after the modal auxiliaries we use the basic form of verb. Now what are the modal auxiliaries? Modal auxiliaries are basically it express one's ability or the possibility, permission or obligation. And it also expresses the speaker's mood, attitude, or it can be used for predicting something. So modal auxiliaries are very common in English language, so we must have very good idea about it. So you see, what are the modal auxiliaries? Modal auxiliaries are can, could, shall, should, will, would, may, might, must, and beside this there are some semi-modals like you see number B, need, ought to, used to, dare, and beside this there are some modal verb phrase like be to. Be to means am to, is to, are to, and you see be going to, had better, have to, have got to, would rather. These are called modal verb phrases. Modal verb phrases are also semi-modal verbs. Actually, you see semi-modals, why this term is used? Semi-modals are basically can be used both as modal verb in a sentence, or it itself can be used as a principal verb in a sentence. Therefore, these are called semi-modals. Modal verb phrases are also semi-modals. So after the modal auxiliaries and after semi-modal verbs, we must use a basic form of verb. For example, you see the example for number A, I am wrong, he may be wrong. So there is a prediction here, he may be wrong, may be or may not be. So these verbs are frequently used when you are not sure, when we are not sure about something, to make prediction, to express someone's ability, possibility, or for permission, obligation. These are the use of modal verb. So we should keep in mind that after modal verb or semi-modal verb or modal verb phrase, we must use the basic form of verb. You see the second example, you ought not to disrespect your superiors. So ought not to is a semi-modal verb. So after this we have used the basic form of verb, and that is disrespect. And you see the third example, this room is to remain locked at all times. So here you see to remain, is to, that is be to. So be to is also a semi-modal verb or modal verb phrase, and after this verb we must use the basic form of verb. And there are some other rules also. Look at these words or phrases. Some words and phrases are given here for number D. Cannot but, couldn't but, late, make, do, does, did, and after these phrases we always use the basic form of verb. For example, you see the albatross made the wind blow. Here you see made is the verb, and after this blow this is used as basic form. So these are the basic form of verb. And number E, this is very important. After infinitive to, we use it at 2 plus verb 1 or 2 plus basic form of verb. So after infinitive to we should use the basic form of verb. It took me half an hour to reach the station. So here you see to reach, after the verb to we have used the basic form of verb. And the another example, another rule is, you see number F, list. After list we use a subject, and after the subject we use should, might, and after that we should use the verb 1. So this is also used in completing sentence, or you will see in using special words or phrases in another grammatical items that is included in your syllabus. So after list verb we use one subject, and then we should give one modal, that is should or might, and then we will use the basic form of verb or verb 1. So you see, he ran fast lest he missed the train. So here we can answer it like this: he ran fast lest he should miss the train or he might miss the train. So let's have a revision. So when do we use the basic form of verb? After modal auxiliaries, after semi-modal verbs, or modal verb phrase. We use after cannot but, couldn't but, late, make, do, does, did, after infinitive to, and list plus should or might plus verb 1. And here these are the use of the basic form of verb. Here there is an exercise. We should keep in mind that in the examination you may not find the modal verb used. Sometimes you may have to use a modal verb from your own if you find that if there is any prediction, ability, possibility, obligation, or permission, if the speaker's mood express this type of thing, then we will bring one modal verb, and then we will use the basic form of verb. You see, men live alone. Let's read the exercise below, that men live alone. So how can we complete it? Man cannot live alone. We bring one modal verb. You see, they depend on others. Here we can keep the verb as it is, they depend on others, or we can use one modal, they should depend on others, or we can use they must depend on others, or they have to depend on others. So according to the mode of the sentence or mode of the speaker, we can use one modal, and then we can use the right form of verb. You see, sometimes now we find peace in isolation, but that's a permanent solution. Sometimes we find peace in isolation. So here we can keep this verb like it is, as it is, that we can complete the sentence like this: sometimes we find peace in isolation. Or we can give one modal verb here. For example, sometimes we may find peace in isolation, or we can find peace in isolation. Like this we can use one modal, but that be a permanent solution. So be means am, is, are, or was, were. So here we should use the negative form, that is not a permanent solution. So we can complete it like it. We can use that is not a permanent solution, or we can use one modal verb that may not be a permanent solution, that that may not be a permanent solution. So this is according to the mode of the sentence, we are bringing modals to complete the sentence or to give the right form of verb. So we seek company in the last sentence, you see. So we seek company, we can keep the verb seek as it is, or we can bring one modal verb. So we should seek company, or we have to seek company. Like this we can complete the sentence, we can use the right form of verb. So dear students, the fact is that in the examination or in the question paper, you may not find the modal already used in the before the gap, rather the verb may be used, and in some cases you may have to use one modal according to the mode of the sentence, and you will give the right form of verb, you will use the right form of verb. So I think now you have a good idea about using the basic form of verb. The second one is the use of present form of verb, that we termed as verb 1. So when do we use the verb 1 or the present form of verb? The first rule is to form present indefinite tense. So basically, to know these grammatical items, right form of verb, we must have good idea about tense. And I think you dear students, you have a good idea about tenses and the structures of 12 kinds of tense. And hopefully, dear students, if you have forgotten, I hope you will go through your grammar book, and you will have a good idea, you will build a idea about the structures of different tenses, the 12 kind of tenses. So let's go to the rule again. The first rule is to form present indefinite tense. So when do we use present indefinite tense? There are some indicators in the sentence. There may be some indicators in the sentence, and if you find the adverbial words that I have written here, if you find those words in the sentences, we can use the present form of verb, that is verb 1. So what are those words? There are every day, every week, every plus time, always, daily, generally, never, normally, often, regularly, ordinarily, now and then, occasionally, sometimes, usually. And these basically, you see, these are used in present indefinite tense, and of course the general activities of us, and these words, these adverbial words, refers to our general activities. So therefore these are used in present indefinite tense. So after these, if we find these adverbial words in a sentence, we can use verb 1. The second one is universal truth and habitual fact. If the sentence refers to, or if we find that there is universal truth in the sentence, or there is a habitual fact, we can use the basic form of verb 1 in the sentence. You see the example: an adult human baby contain 206 bones. So what is the answer? This is the truth. So we can use the present form of verb. As the subject is in third person singular number, we will use s with the verb. So the answer is an adult human baby contains 206 bones. The second one is he not take exercise regularly. So here there is an indicator, that is regularly. So we can easily use it in present indefinite tense. That means according to the subject, we may use as or yes. So here you see he is the subject, the third person singular number. So not take, so we will use it like this: he doesn't take exercise regularly, and this is the answer. You see, some answers are not given here, so you, the students, you can put the right answers in the comment, and that would be a good exercise for you. Now we are going to learn the use of past form of verb or the verb to. So when do we use the first form of verb? The first one is to form past indefinite tense. So to form past indefinite tense, there are some indicators. And what are those indicators? You see written here: last night, yesterday, long since or long back, in those days, long ago, before, ago, in the past. These are the indicators. If we find this type of indicators in a sentence, we can easily use the past form of verb, that is verb to. For example, in those days people not be hungry. So be verb, what is the past form of be? Was and were. So here we will use not be, that means were not hungry, because in those days is the indicator here. Here there is an example, and here you see most of the verbs have been used in past form, that is in verb to. You see, you carefully read this example, and you will, I think, write the answer in the comment box. And this came in Rajshahi Board 2016. Use of past form of verb, we are continuing. Some other rules are there. So after, you see, it is time, it is high time, it is about the time. After these we use the subject and then verb to. For example, it is about the time we prepared ourselves for the future. So it is about the time, or it is high time, it is time, then subject here I have used we. So any other subject may be here, I or they or you. So after this, if you find any subject, we should use the first form of verb. But if there is no subject, what will happen? If there is no subject, then we will use to plus verb 1. For example, it is time for us to learn correct English. So here you see, it is time, after it is time, or it is high time, or it is about time, there is no subject. So what should we do? We should use to plus basic form. It is time for us to learn correct English. Let us read another rule, that is unreal wish, that is unreal past, wish, if, like, would that, would rather that, fancy. And after these words or phrases, we use one subject and then verb to. And in that case, if you find be verb, then irrespective of subjects, we always use were. So let's have some example. If we knew his telephone number. So after if there is one subject, so what should be the form of verb? Of course, the verb to, or first form of verb. If we knew his telephone number. Let's see the second example. Would that he manage the money? Would that he manage the money? What is the answer? Managed or could manage. So after would that we usually use would that, then subject plus could plus verb 1, or we can use the past form of the verb. So would that he managed the money. This is the answer. Now let's move to the rules of using the past participle form of verb or verb 3. So this is worthy of discussion. You see, the first one is very important rule, and you see in most of the 10 sentences that is given in your that are usually given in your exam script, are like this, in the question script are like this. You see, to form passive sense. When do we use the passive sense? We use the passive sense when the subject is inactive. If we find the subject inactive, in that case, what do? We bring one be verb to help the verb, and the be verb, whenever we use the be verb in a passive sentence, then we use the past participle form of the verb. So you see, when the subject is inactive in a sentence, we use be verb, then verb 3. So what are the be verbs? The be is the base form of the be verb. Be, am, is, are, was, were. Was, were are the past form of the verb, be verb. Been is the first participle form of the be verb, and being is the ing form of the be verb. So if you find the subject is inactive, how can we consider the subject is inactive? Let's go to the example. English learn, in the bracket the verb is learn. English learn to communicate with the foreigners. So here you see subject is English. English itself it cannot learn. Rather, with the people we learn English. So English, this subject is inactive. It doesn't complete the function of the verb in the sentence. So therefore the subject is inactive, and we will of course take help of the be verb, and then we will use the past participle form of the verb. So you see, what can I use? English is learned to communicate with the foreigners. So be verb is, and then the first participle learned. Or we can use should be learned, that means using a modal and then be verb. So English should be learned to communicate with the foreigners. This may be the possible answer. So let's go to the second example. So what is it? The problem solve. So how can we solve this problem? The problem solve. You see, there may be several answers, but in the example or in the whenever you are given any exercise, you must consider the context of the text. If you find that the text is used in present form, then you will use the passive form of present tenses, or if it is used in past tense, or you will use the past form of passive. And then you see, we can solve it like this. English, the problem solved. So the problem is solved. The problem is being solved. If you think that it might be in present continuous tense, then we can use like this: English is being solved. Or English has been solved if we think that this sentence is in present perfect tense. So the problem has been solved. The problem was solved if we think this is in past indefinite tense. Was being solved, it is used in past continuous tense. Had been solved, it is for past perfect tense. Will be solved, it is for future indefinite tense, or might be solved. So these are the possible answers. So answers may vary from each one another, but fact is that we must follow the text in which tense the whole text is written, and considering that we will bring one, and we will use the be verb according to the tense of the passage, and then we will use the first participle form of the verb. Another rule is that to form perfect tenses, in English we have three perfect tenses, that is present perfect tense, past perfect tense, and future perfect tense. And to form the perfect tenses, we use one have verb, to have verb, and then we use the past participle form of the verb. So now let's discuss on the present perfect tense. When do we use present perfect tense? There are some indicators. If we find these indicators in a sentence, we can use the present perfect tense. And the structure of present perfect, as you know, that is subject plus have or has, and then verb 3. So to form perfect tenses we use the verb 3, but there must be one have verb before it. So you see, to form present perfect tense there may be these words in the sentence: just now, already, yet, ever, lately, recently. Let's go through some examples. He has just gone out. So just is there, and the verb has been used in past participle form, and you see has is there as an structure to complete the structure. You see, he not do the work yet. So what would be the answer? The answer is he hasn't done the work yet. The third one, you see, the work not do yet, and here you see the subject. Look at the subject, the work is the subject, but the fact is that the work cannot do anything, rather someone will do the work. That's why the work is an inactive subject, and therefore we have to take help of be verb. As it is in present perfect tense, we should bring have verb and then be verb, and then we will use the past participle form of verb. So what would be the answer? You guys, and you can write in the comment box. The second one is to form past perfect tense. To form past perfect tense we use the verb 3, and of course there must be one had verb and then verb 3. So these are some conjunctions or indicators when we usually make the past perfect tense: before, after, no sooner had than, scarcely had when, hardly had before. So I think you are quite familiar with this structure. You see before and after. So if before and after is used as conjunction in a sentence, and there will be two clauses, two clauses used in those sentences, and the clauses used before the word before we will use the past perfect tense, and the tense after before will be past indefinite tense. And similarly after, for after, we use past perfect tense, and before after we use past indefinite tense. And no sooner had, with no sooner we use past perfect tense, and after then we use past indefinite tense. So this is the rules, I think you know it. So let's go through some examples. He had scarcely left the place when it started raining. So here you see scarcely had when. He had scarcely left the place. So with scarcely we have used the first perfect tense had left, and after when we have used the past indefinite tense. The second example: I had bought a computer before I bought a laptop. So the before conjunction is used here, and you see the first clause has been used according to the rule in past perfect tense, and the second clause is in past indefinite tense. And in the third sentence you see after has been used as a conjunction. The patient died after the doctor had come. It's a most common example we used. So you see after we have used, after the conjunction after we have used the past perfect tense. The patient died after the doctor had come. To form future perfect tense, when do we use the future perfect? There is indicator in the sentence. There may be an indicator like this: by plus time. If you find by plus time, in that case we will use future perfect. So what is the structure of future perfect? Subject plus shall have or will have, and then verb 3. So let's see the example. By tomorrow I will do the work. So by tomorrow I will have done the work. So done, the past participle form. He returned by Monday next. So what would be the answer? He will have returned by Monday next. And the another rule is that after being, having, or verb to be, that we have discussed already. After verb to be, after being is the continuous form of be verb, so we use the verb 3. For example, being displeased, he left the place. So what would be the answer? Being displeased. After being, we use the past participle form of the verb. The manager wanted the notice to be hung. So to be verb is there, then we should use the past participle form of the verb, and that is hung. The manager wanted the notice to be hung. Now we are discussing verb 1 plus ing. When should we use verb 1 plus ing? The first rule is that to form continuous tenses. So you see that in grammar, in tenses, we have 3 continuous tenses, that is present continuous tense, past continuous tense, future continuous tense. So when do we use present continuous tense? There may be some indicators in the sentences. You see, what are those indicators? Those are now, nowadays, day by day, at this moment, always, today. Or if you find change in habit, we will use the present continuous tense. And let us remember the structure of present continuous tense. The structure of present continuous tense is am, is, are plus verb plus ing. And of course, at the beginning we will use the subject, then am, is, are, then verb 1 plus ing. Moin write a letter at this moment. So what would be the answer? Moin is writing a letter at this moment. Nitu goes to school by bus. Today she go by rickshaw. So this is a change in habit. He usually goes by bus, but today she is going by rickshaw. Day by day climate change. The answer is day by day climate is changing. We have to keep in mind that there are some verbs of perception. What are the verbs of perception? Verbs of perception are those verbs that we feel through our 5 senses. That is feel, that is it is related to our skin. See, it is related to our eye. Look, it is also related to our eye, our sense organ. You see, smell, it is related to our nose. Taste, it is related to our tongue. And you see here, it is related to our another sense organ, that is ear. So whenever these verbs are called verbs of perception, and these verbs of perception do not take any ing form. This coffee tastes bitter. So what would be the answer? The coffee tastes bitter. The flower smells very nice, and we cannot use is smelling very nice, even though it is in present continuous tense. I see a bird, we cannot use I am seeing a bird, we use I see a bird. Present perfect continuous tense, you see, to form present perfect continuous tense, we also use the verb 1 plus ing. For example, you see, present perfect continuous tense, if you remember that for and since is used, and after for and since there is a period of time. So if we see that short period of time after since or for, then we will use that present perfect continuous tense. What is the present structure? Subject plus have been or has been, then ing form of the verb. For example, I have been reading since morning, or it has been raining for 2 hours. But if there is long period of time, in that case we use the present perfect tense. For example, I have lived in the same building since 2009. In this sentence there is a long period of time, so we can use it in present perfect tense. He has read in the university for 5 years. So for 5 years is a long period of time, so we have used it in present perfect tense. So to form present perfect continuous tense, we use the ing form of verb. Now, when do we use the past continuous tense? So past continuous tense, we can, one thing I have discussed here, that is using of while. So after while is used when while is used as a conjunction in a sentence and it joins to clauses. In that case we can use the past continuous form. So after while we use the past continuous and the another clause will be in maybe in past indefinite. So this is first one. So what is the example? While the man dashed in the field, suddenly a dog came and dashed him. And you see this came, this was given in the Dhaka University admission test. So here while, after while the subject is there, so then we should use the past continuous tense. So the answer is while the man was working in the field, suddenly a dog came, and the second one will be in past indefinite tense, in came and beat him. In some cases we can use past continuous tenses in the both clauses. In the both clauses we can use past continuous tenses when while is there as a conjunction. For example, I plan for my work, I was planning for my work while he was sleeping. And another structure is that we can use past tense at the beginning clause, and then conjunction while, and then we will use the past continuous tense. I planned for my work while he was sleeping. So I answer is I planned for my work. Planned because the first one will maybe in past tense also. So the fact is that what we have got from here, the fact is that after while the clause is in past continuous tense. So after while we use the past continuous tense. Let's go through another example. My uncle arrived while I dashed the dinner, while I was cooking the dinner. The answer is I was. So after while the clause will be in past continuous tense. To form past continuous tense, there are some indicators also that are those are then, at the time, at that time. So let's see some example. Then I write a letter. The answer is then I was writing a letter. At that time I dash in my room. So what would be the answer? I think you can guess. The another rule is that for ing, when do we use ing form with a verb, that is using gerund. So when do we use gerund? After, you see here, after preposition we use verb 1 plus ing. After preposition, so lots of prepositions are there in English, for, on, in, by, without, before, after, while. A lot of prepositions are there in English. So after the preposition, if we find any verb, we will use just the ing form with the verb. For example, without study hard you cannot pass. So what is the answer? You know it. While walk in the garden. So while here is a preposition. So what is the answer? While walking in the garden, a snake beat him. After prepositional phrase, we use the ing form, that is gerund, with a view to, look forward to, be used to, get used to, accustomed to, or devoted to. These are prepositional phrase, and after these we use the ing form of the verb. He is used to gambling. Or another example is, he came here with a view to participating in the class. So here you see, after these prepositional phrases we use the ing form of the verb. But one thing we have to keep in mind, that be used to means is used to, am used to, or are used to. So it is not applicable when non-living being is a subject. For example, you see, bamboo is used to produce paper. So here you see, subject is a non-living thing, bamboo, and be used to is there, but we haven't used the ing form with the verb. Rather we have used the basic form of the verb. So
The fact is that when non-living thing is used as a subject and be used to use as a verb, in that case we will use the basic form of verb. Now let's know some words, and after these words we use the ing form of the verb. The words are admit, delay, miss, intend, regret, worth, prefer, dislike, report, suggest, appreciate, deny, postpone, repent, avoid, enjoy, practice, resist, finish, past, resume, consider, mind, recall, risk. After this verb, we generally use the ing form of the verb. And beside this, there are some phrases like cannot but, couldn't, cannot bear or couldn't bear, it is no use or it is no good. After these phrases, we use ing form with the verb. Let's go through some examples. Shohid admitted dash my mobile, steal my mobile. So what would be the answer? What would be the answer? You know it, I think. We are learning the ing form of the verb. Does your little brother enjoy was horror film? So what would be the answer? Was is there, enjoy is there. Then we should use the ing form of the verb. Parents never mind. So mind is there. So answer is taking. We have some more discussion, but I think it would be too long to finish all the discussion in one class. Rather, we may take another class to complete the rather section, the further sections of our discussion. So I think the discussion we made so far, I think will be helpful for you to make the right use of verb. Wish your sound health, and hopefully you will follow the rules of hygiene, and you will stay safe and sound. Thank you all.